Volleson, please call the roll.
Mr. Acom?
Here.
Mrs. Click?
Here.
Mrs. Schneider?
Here.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Here.
Mr. Cebulski?
All right, we begin tonight's meeting with special reports and recognitions. Tonight we have Exhibit A1, which is a resolution of achievement to recognize and congratulate Paul Behrendt, Min Lee, Max Moyer, and Brody Peters for being state winners for the Solve for Tomorrow competition. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski?
Yes.
Mr. Acom?
Yes.
All right, students, would you please come forward and get your certificates? Over there and shake Mr. Volleson's hand. And then come this way.
Making our way down this way. Meet me at the podium. Congratulations.
All right, Mr.
Okay.
Burnham.
Well, thank you. I had the opportunity to talk a little bit about the boys and their accomplishments. So earlier in the school year, we received word from Samsung Solve for Tomorrow Selection Committee that out of thousands of submissions, Paul Behrendt earned top honors in the state of Ohio for his submission to the contest. Now, the Solve for Tomorrow contest aims to raise awareness of crucial community issues and cultivate social responsibility in future leaders. Paul's project, for instance, involved creating an alternative battery that uses manganese instead of lithium. Now, manganese is the 12th most abundant element on Earth and is less toxic and more common than lithium. So this innovative battery also combines with carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas, to generate electricity while producing a less harmful byproduct and simultaneously reducing atmospheric carbon dioxide. So as Paul advanced to the national level, he recruited a team of students to enhance his project. The group, composed of Stephen Lee, Max Moyer, and Brody Peters, worked for several months after school with support from advisor and AHS science teacher Laura Bell. The team then created and submitted a video presentation explaining the benefits of their alternative battery for the national competition. So, as the state of Ohio representative at the national competition, the team earned a $12,000 prize package from Samsung Products for the Aurora City Schools. The package includes 5 Galaxy Book 5 Pro 360s, 5 27-inch Viewfinity high-resolution monitors, and 1 sound tower, all of which will be used to help enhance the science classroom experience at Aurora High School for the 2025-2026 school year. So congratulations to Paul and to Stephen and to Max. Brody's got soccer practice, but also to Ms. Bell. And thank you guys for your time and for your great prize package that you'll be sharing with us at the high school. So congratulations.
I appreciate that backstory. I wasn't even sure I could ask an intelligent question. So, appreciate that. Congratulations. And if you all would like to leave, you're welcome to leave, or you're welcome to stay, whatever you'd like to do. But we appreciate your being here on this summer night. Oh, yeah. All right, we have no public comments tonight, so we will move on to the approval of minutes from the regular meeting of May 19th. May I have a motion, please?
Move. Second.
Are there any edits or additions to those minutes? All right, then, Mr. Volleson, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Cebulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Acom?
Yes.
Minutes are approved as written. All right, Mr.
All right. This month's assistant superintendent for curriculum report is going to be a combination, and we have guests here today from Then Design Architecture who are going to share their 4 proposals that the construction committee has been working on as alternatives to the bond issue that did not pass this past in November 2025. I will turn things over to Cheryl, who will get us all set up here to project, and she'll take us. Take your time. She'll take us through each of those, and if there's questions for the board, you're more than welcome to ask those. What we're hoping to do is give you time to kind of see what the proposals that we came up with as a committee were, and then give you time to digest all of that and provide some direction in July for Paul as he takes the next steps as to which of these proposals you believe would be best for us to pursue, if any. Okay?
I got to connect all of this, but we've been engaged with the district and the planning effort for several years now. And it came to culmination in November for a bond issue for a new 9 through 12 high school project and improvements at the other schools. Now, the mindset behind that project really was to try and address all of your district-wide facility needs in one fell swoop. So you wouldn't have to go back to the voters in 10 years or 20 years for facility needs in terms of space primarily. So that was actually the approach to that, but we know the result of it. It was rejected overwhelmingly by the voters last fall. And I do have to say, Aurora was not unique to this. This is a trend that we've seen since COVID hit. It is becoming incredibly hard to pass bond issues where it used to be between 50 and 75% chance of passage. It's inverted now, and we're looking at like a 25% chance now of passing it. So something that all districts are trying to deal with across the state, and even has spilled over into operations. So what we heard after the failure of the bond issue were two main points that were repeated comments. The master plan was too large, and it was too expensive, and we understand it, right? The concerns of the community, the economy, the world state, and so forth. It was just too much, and that the community wanted to see the essentials addressed in a further plan. So that's what we're here to present tonight. So we are going to present four main options. Just another look at last year's plan with updated 2025 costs. Those 2025 costs are applied to every option that you see. So we'll look at option one, last year's plan. Scott's going to present a new elementary school plan on the Craddock site. Option three, Claire will address about just simply closing Craddock and expanding on all the other school facilities, sans the high school. Then we're going to talk about the triage list of district needs, and these really are responding directly to just the essential needs that we have here in our facilities. And we were asked to take another look at a natatorium to put that cost into context and have an update on that. So with that said, option one, the new 9-12 high school, new 9 through 12 high school, and then a shift in the other facilities. We'd close Craddock. And when I say a shift in grades, once we have a new high school, we can then take middle school students that are at Harmon, put them into the existing high school. The students that were at Layton now go to Harmon, and so forth. We had two options, a green plan and a white plan, and we went with the green plan. If you recall, the previous bond issue was $135.4 million, and now we've updated it, and it's only $135.5 million only, I say, but the increase is only a couple $100,000, and I'm sure you're wondering why. When we solidified our costs in early 2024, we were still waiting for the state's 2024 cost set to come out, so we gauged what we thought the inflation would be for that, and we were really close. We were within 0.2% of what inflation turned out. But what the state also did after we'd already finalized our costs was they made an adjustment to your regional cost factor. So all of the costs are called baseline, and they're the Columbus area. At that point in time, when we did this planning, our area here in Aurora, which is Zone 8, Region 8, had an 11% increase to baseline costs. It cost that much more. And what they've done over the last two cycles is reduce that. They think they overshot, so that reduction in your regional cost factor is now 4.5% compared to 11, and it's offset the inflation factor over the last 2 years. So that's why the cost has not moved. We did just want to show you that, just so you are aware as you're comparing the other options, how that looks against this plan. You know, you can decide if you want to move forward with this or any of the other plans, but that's the number today.
Okay, so option 2 is to build a new first through third grade elementary school on the Craddock site. We did investigate the Craddock site back on our first review of this before we went out the first time. At that time, we looked at a much larger facility. I think we were looking at like pre-K through 3. We were trying to fit it all on the west side, the left there of the site towards the Aurora Inn. And it was making us have to do a 3-story building and all these things, and this site just didn't work out. We were trying to save the transportation facility. So in this plan, we're building the new school. We're going to construct a new transportation facility on this site. So we're going to be moving some things around. There's going to be some phasing. Then at Miller, we're going to add 5 classrooms for the pre-K and K grades. And then at this site, on this building, this plan proposes that we add about a 2,800 square foot addition to this building to house the Board of Education. And then in this cost also includes the abatement and demolition of Craddock, the abatement and demolition of the bus garage, and then the triage lists that Cheryl's going to kind of explain at the end, without any Craddock items, because Craddock will be replaced in this option. So this slide animates, I hope. So we're going to look at the phasing. So this is the existing site. Craddock's right in the middle. The field to the left, the bus garage and bus parking's to the right there. When we're looking at this site, we're always looking at how we're going to address stormwater and things like that. So probably the north portion of this site would be taken up by a fairly large stormwater basin. That's the lowest part of the site. We would relocate the playgrounds into that area in between the different buildings of Craddock, split into 3 different additions, so kind of in there in that parking lot. And we are relocating the playground temporarily during the construction because we would build parking and transportation for the bus garage on that where the playground currently is. That will allow us to move the bus garage, and the transportation department and bus parking over to the west side of the site there, freeing up a large area for our new first through third school. The students would stay in Craddock. We would build the school. So again, that's just an idea, a conceptual footprint of the school. It's 106,000 square feet, right? About 106,000 square feet with playgrounds. And then once everyone moves in, we'll finish the demolition of the existing Craddock building, and we can finish the site. So there'll be a parent. We try to separate a parent drop-off loop from a bus drop-off loop, staff parking from bus parking and event parking, and things like that. Again, it's conceptual, but this is how we envision this site fitting everything that we need for option 2. Before we move off this, the cost there for this master plan is at the bottom there, so it's significantly less than option 1. And then part of option 2 would be to add an addition to the back of Miller. So again, that's 5 classrooms. So we're just kind of extending the corridors that are already there. There was an addition put on, I think, in 2010, so we would extend that addition, add 5 more classrooms at Miller for more classroom space there for pre-K and K. And then it's a little hard to see because I drew the addition in a darker color, but off the back of this building, kind of an L-shaped addition to the south and then to the east that would house the new Board of Education offices. I think that's all for my diagrams. Okay.
If you go back, do you believe that there would be enough in the current
That, yeah, that's the intent. So that's what we're always looking for. This plan, I think, has room, like that drive has room to grow to the west if it needs to grow. Again, it's just conceptual. So I don't have an exact figure of how many parent cars that parent loop would make, but that is always the plan. We want to get all of the traffic onto our campus and off of the side streets.
I lost track of the playground. Where's the playground?
The playgrounds are just those little, in this scheme, they're the, let me see if I can, like these little brown areas here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So one would be off of each wing. So you might have a first and second grade playground and a third grade playground, or you might divide them that way, depending on the ages of the kids.
And that stormwater basin, that will serve the entire property?
It would, yes.
Did you feel like there was enough space to do everything that you need to do? And was there any consideration for underground stormwater?
So we haven't, this is just conceptual, so we haven't made any final calculations. That's always an option. Underground's always an option. It's just much more expensive. So we try to do as much as we can on the site. I mean, that's a pretty big area there for that. And you can see we still have a little bit of room to shift south if we have to.
Can you clarify if this was 2 or 3 stories?
This is 2, yes. That's very important. Sorry, I missed that. Yeah, when we looked at this last time, it was 3 stories. It just didn't seem to fit, seemed to be out of scale with the area. So this is just a 2-story building.
For a building like this, what would be the timeline for what, like, would the students be in the building for 1 school year while the new building is being constructed, or would it go beyond that?
Yeah, so usually our design period's probably usually about 18 months, so a year and a half in design, and there's typically a building this size would be, it would safe to say for now, there's some 24 months of construction, so it'd be a couple of years before we transfer it to them. And the phasing adds a little bit to that too, so, but as we're in design, we'll probably start the construction and phasing of the bus garage. So I think that 24 months of construction, the bus garage moving, I keep saying bus garage, the transportation department moving should be within that time frame.
What's included in the transportation department? Is it more than just offices? Is it a garage? Was there consideration of that yet, or is it too early?
We do have a program. I think Cheryl, you have a better idea? Okay, she's got the list. I don't want to misspeak on anything. But yeah, we did develop that square footage. We based the square footage on, we call it program of requirements. So understanding everything that needs to go into it, and then we built the square footage. So I'll let, yeah, okay.
All right, so I'm Claire. Option 3 includes some of the same things as option 2, but the big difference is that Craddock would close. So then the students that are displaced from that closure would find new homes in Layton, Miller, and Harmon. So the grade configurations then would be Miller, pre-K and K, same addition as what you just saw in option 2 would be needed there. Layton would be grades 1 through 4, and I can talk through that little diagram in just a moment. Harmon would be grades 5 through 8, so an additional grade level there. And then similarly to the other plan, this building would be added on to for the board office. So the conference center renovated and expanded. Craddock would be abated and demolished. The triage list, which we'll talk through in a little bit here, would still need to occur to bring buildings up to standards that are needed. And then the abatement and demolition of the bus garage would occur, and a new bus garage would be on the site where it currently is. So Layton, just to explain this here, it's showing a floor plan that's overlaid there, and then one more little leg coming off, sort of coming through some of the corridors that are being used as small group rooms actually right now. in some of those locations. So that's actually showing a two-story addition off of one of the spokes, basically, of Layton. That area of the site really is the only area that's open and kind of buildable around there, because you got the parking lots close to the building on the east side, you've got the detention and sort of pond basin over there on the west side. So you're pretty landlocked actually with that building. Oh, I'm trying to advance with the button. Harmon then, we would be looking at doing an addition to the north. So this would actually be displacing that parking lot where the drop-off loop right now is occurring. That would move up to be next to the tennis courts. So you could still have that drop-off loop there and that parking there, but the building would need to expand. That's a single-story addition to create room for another grade level. And right now it's set up sort of to mimic some of the layout that's in the existing building, knowing there are pros and cons to that layout, but knowing that those grade level sizes are working out sort of well for the collaboration in those grade levels that's occurring. And then these Scott just talked through. So these are the additions to Miller for pre-K and K, and then the board office and conference center, which is a little dark, but you can see it kind of forms this L as far as the expansion that would be needed to move the board office here. So that, I believe, is option 3 in a nutshell. Any questions on this? Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl. I keep trying to use this clicker. I need to stop to go through the triage.
So to go back to the transportation facility, based off memory, I don't have my sheet. It's about 9,000 square foot building. It would have a bay dedicated for washing buses, as well as, I think, what was it, Sal? Three service bays to service the buses. The other spaces in the building are all support, so you'd have maintenance, you would have tool crib, you'd have storage area, tire storage area, locker rooms, and a kitchenette. So it really is, you know, base minimum. It's not really frivolous. It's pretty not bare bones, but we peeled Sal back a little bit from the original program that we were looking at. But we'd be happy to share that program with you after the meeting. We'll send it to you, you can forward to the board. So onward to the triage list. So we sat down with Sal and the administration, and we wanted to try and identify and prioritize the essential renovation work that was needed at these buildings, things that just can't wait or be kicked down the road, that will keep the building serviceable and manageable and operational over the near future. So several conversations back and forth, and we came up with a list of about 70 items. That's a collective total of all the facilities in the district. And then we took that and we classified them again in between priority A, which is most immediate needs, imperative needs, and D, well, maybe we can wait another year or two to address these, but they're still needed. And the reason that this is such a extensive list is as these buildings age, the amount of work and renovation and replacement grows, but the PI levy hasn't. So our needs have now exceeded how much money there is in the PI fund, a challenge Mr. Sal there has had and the administration has had to deal with for many years. So these priority renovations, like I said, almost 70 items, really focus on warm, safe, dry, a lot of paving, a lot of HVAC component replacement. We're not talking about system replacement throughout. We're talking about replacing that chiller, replacing that boiler, replacing that rooftop unit that has well exceeded their natural life and will ultimately fail if we're not proactive and get those replaced. Another good item is the elevator replacement at the high school. That's something that needs to be addressed just as a safety issue. That elevator is, the manufacturer has been gone for many years and the parts are no longer available. So it's items like that we say, you know, are priority. So we tried to summarize that list here in this slide, and if you look, now I realized right here, this middle box, you'll see we have taken all those priorities and we've categorized them into two separate columns. We have our minimal scope and then our enhanced scope. When you look at the minimum scope at the bottom, you can see we're almost at $12 million, and the enhanced scope, we're about $20.6 million. The main difference between these two costs primarily are in two categories. One is the paving. So in the minimum scope, it's just addressing the most needed parking lot replacement in your district facilities. However, in the enhanced scope, it also addresses Greenman Way, which, by the way, is 1.2 miles long. It's very long. So that's one of the items that contributes to that delta and that difference. The other is kitchen equipment. Do we piecemeal replacement of certain pieces of kitchen equipment in various schools, or when we know that they've all well exceeded their life and will fail sometime in the near future, do we address it all at one time? So that's the main differences there. You can see at the top left in green, I've tried to categorize some of those big ticket items in the enhanced scope. You can see Greenman Way and parking lots collectively have a price tag of $5.6 million. That's a substantial number. Then we have our HVAC, our kitchen equipment, and select roof replacements categorized there and itemized there for you. Now, Scott mentioned earlier, that triage list being built into options 2 and 3. What we did there, and you can see here in this column at the right, is we removed the scope related to Craddock, which was over somewhere between $2 and $3 million. So that $17.6 million has no scope associated to Craddock improvements, and that was the number that was plugged in to plans 2 and 3. Is there any questions before we move on? Oops, I'm doing it, Clara. And lastly, this little sneak peek snapshot of what a new natatorium could cost. Again, this is about a 25,000 square foot facility that we're pricing out here. It would be an 8-lane competition pool. It would have all the spectator seating, all the bleachers. It also would include a diving well. You'd have locker rooms, 3 different locker rooms, and then all the support spaces that you would typically see for a facility of this type and size. A few years ago when we first looked at it, we were in the $13 million range, and you can see here today, 2025 cost is about $14.8 million. The picture on the side represents a natatorium project we just finished for Sandusky High School. It actually was a hybrid renovation addition type project, so not the same magnitude of scope, but that renovation addition project was over, what was it, between $8 and $9 million? So it's a costly type of facility. So with that said, we did have at the end an opportunity for additional questions that you may have.
The natatorium, where was it proposed that would be located?
So we didn't really put it in any plan or at any building. You could do it standalone. You could do it attached to the high school. We haven't vetted it out that much yet. It literally was taking spaces and how much those spaces cost and compiling them together to get to this 25,000 square foot. Any other questions? We threw a lot at you.
So then with the triage ops, does that include then repairs done to Craddock? And if that's the case, like how sustainable is that to keep repairing a building that is already that old?
Yeah, so in the plans that we showed, Craddock was going away in options 1, 2, and 3. So the costs, let me go back to, whoops. So you could see, let's find a triage list. We did not include Craddock renovations in there. So you can see that 17.6 million compared to, if we include Craddock, we're at 20.6 million. So we're not attributing or allocated any money to Craddock renovations in those plans for the very reasons you said.
But for option 4, that is included.
Correct. So you have, yes, for option 4, it is included within this main chart here. And then we just showed you how we extracted it there because this was included in the other plans if Craddock goes away. So you can see both numbers, somewhere between $2 and $3 million for just Craddock improvements.
So I would consider that option 4 is a triage list only.
Correct.
in which we keep Craddock, so we have to put money into it to keep it going.
Right.
So then my question is, and remind everyone, how old is Craddock? And how long do we think we can sustain Craddock, even if we put millions of dollars into it?
That's a big question. That's a deep, deep question, and it's a valid question.
And I guess the follow-up question is, do we even want to?
Yes, right. So if memory serves me right, it's somewhere around 100 years?
The original one is 1911, and then the other parts were in the 50s.
Yeah. So there's another layer to looking at that beyond just the cost to repair it. Because you can repair anything, you can fix anything, but does it still function for your educational program? That's another consideration to layer on top. You're still stuck if we renovate it with the same layout, the same size of spaces, and just the same footprint. So if you can renovate it and it functions well for today's programs, that's one thing. But if it doesn't, that's another.
I suspect based on today's standards, we would probably recommend most of the classrooms in that building would be adequate size-wise and function-wise.
You are correct.
I don't even think that's a viable option. I mean, I appreciate that
Yeah.
that you priced it out for us, but.
Yes. I mean, we evaluated it, the state evaluated it, and the recommendation on all parties of architects and engineers were to close the building. You're welcome. Anything else?
I wonder if you would be able to, I know this was emailed to us, I didn't want to print it at my house, and I didn't ask anyone at the board office, but would you be able to make packets for us so that when we meet to discuss this, we have it all in paper form? that we don't have to
Absolutely.
print ourselves?
Absolutely, and we'll include the programming spaces, so you can see what type of spaces were in each school in terms of whether it was a new school or the additions, as well as the transportation, and we can send you that triage list as well, so you can see actually all those itemized renovation work.
Yeah, the program requirements,
Excuse me?
the program requirements you said it included.
Yes, yes. We might provide a summary for it because it's kind of a complicated document. It's not really easy to read and follow, so we'll provide a summary with that so that you can see in a snapshot as well what that program entails.
I also realize that these are preliminary drawings and speculation stuff, but especially like when you look at like option 3, especially when you look at Herman there and the addition there, I feel like it's creating a lot of space where there's potential for classrooms without windows and natural light. Even in option 2, it looked like a lot of pavement. Would there be consideration to go into place that would kind of help make sure that classrooms have windows, that there's green space available for the students that are going into the building?
So that is absolutely a possibility we can do. So here's Harmon here up at the screen, and your existing building footprint here, you can see it already has a lot of internal classrooms that don't have natural light. So that type of study is what we call reprogramming, and it's going beyond renovation, beyond addition, and actually now we're going to change how the walls are. We're going to introduce natural light through whether it be skylights or other means. So we absolutely can do that.
And, at the Craddock site, the new building, when we design these new buildings, every learning space will have natural light. But you're right, there is a lot of pavement. We're trying to fit a lot of stuff on this site. So, with the additional cost, which you could look at putting some of the stormwater underground and having a field on top, but, things like that to balance that out. And we can look at trying to reduce some of that pavement on that site too.
And just to speak to at least this one a little bit, the addition actually has potential to have windows in all of those classrooms. The challenge really is the existing building, because there are so many classrooms that are embedded in there. So I think the way that you would have to get daylight into those classrooms would be skylights or those solar tubes, something from above as far as getting natural light into those spaces. And then the Layton addition, we had challenges with two of the existing classrooms as far as where the addition would connect. One of the options we looked at was doing some smaller rooms that kind of bridge out, so you get still some windows on those two classrooms, and then move forward so you could get windows on all the others.
With regards to options 2 and 3, does the price of either of those include some of the major items on the triage list as far as the paving? I mean, obviously, Craddock will have new pavement, but I was looking at some of the other buildings. as well.
Right, so in option 3 here, we have the triage list here at the $17.6 million. So that's everything in that list we just looked at except for what's associated to Braddock. Same thing in option 2. Yep, they're both included, or they're included in both. And that's something too, I mean, that was our first pass at collecting, these priorities. It might morph into a reduced triage list or an expanded triage list. There's many more beyond the 70 so items that we included, but these were what we identified as a group as the most urgent necessity.
Is there any potential to go up to a second story on any of those wings in Layton?
We didn't look at that option. I think doesn't that building have a peaked?
Yeah, it's looking.
I think it's got a sloped roof, so I don't think so. I guess it would be challenging with the equipment that's probably above in those spaces, so. But that, we'd have to get a structural engineer to look at that structure too, to see if it was possible.
How was that option? So you were with Harmon as well, right?
And option 3, yeah.
Yeah, were there other considerations needed to manage stormwater because you're adding on to those buildings or because of existing stormwater system?
We'd probably need to expand the stormwater at Layton a little bit, but we'd want to calculate how much additional runoff is there. And the runoff, I think it's all that basin behind, right? The pond? That's, yeah,
That
was like,
be
that's what we
my
were told.
guess.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my understanding. It slopes that way.
Yeah, I think that was designed for that purpose, for that site, so. Yeah, and I would think in the grand scheme that much of an addition isn't that much as far as impacting that pond, but we didn't dive into those calculations on the site.
So Roberta, how's the foundation of
Harmon's foundation continues to be a struggle. It's a great point, Mr. Sobolski, especially for option 3 as we add on to it. If you recall, and it was my first year to go along with the pandemic, we had to raise the commons area in the science classrooms and reestablish the foundation underneath there. After, it's been about 5 years now, there's some slight sloping starting again. That, my understanding, as we went back and looked, was built on a wetland area before the, if you talk to the folks that have been around Aurora for a while, that used to be a wetland area. So there's still some settling taking place.
So there could potentially be some hidden costs with adding on to Harmon.
It would be
There
safe to
always,
assume.
always could be, yes.
We have not included any addition, so we're basing on concept, right? Just square foot and size and so forth. So, this plan wants to be vetted out further, and we come to find out, most likely that the soils are unsuitable, and we have to bring in better soils and all that. That definitely will have an impact to the cost. Absolutely. Same thing with underground water retention on either plan 2 or 3. If we had to go to underground storage, that would increase the cost as well for water storage, yeah. So really think of these as thought starters, really conversation starters about some of the possibilities that you have, different pathways for future improvements that are at a more palatable cost. There's many more. We didn't, these are the first 4 or 3 additional that we wanted to bring to you tonight.
I know that the natatorium is a frequently asked for item. Is there a way, or do you have
So I actually have, and chime in, you all, if you have any additional information, I actually have Kent School's operational expenses from a few years ago, when we were working with them on some items, so we could forward that along, I'm sure they wouldn't mind. It's a few years outdated, but it was really good information. They were able to extract the exact cost of operating that pool from the rest of the building it's attached to, whether it was, I don't know if it was metered separate or whatever, but they were able to do that. So we do have some information we can pass along.
Okay, anything else? All right, well then we will get together, the board, and we'll have a work session and go through your options. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does that conclude your report?
That does. I think that's enough for you to ponder.
All right, Mr. Volleson.
Thank you, Mrs. Mahalis. This evening, I have 4 resolutions for your consideration. I'll start with the financial report, general fund financial report, and this is for the month of May. And in May, our expenditures exceeded revenues by about $4.5 million, decreasing our general fund cash balance to about $17.7 million, 11 months into the fiscal year. Revenues were about 1.5% less than projected, and expenditures about 2.8% greater. Revenue side, main thing to mention is our property tax. In the property tax allocation category, we received $75,440, which is the Summit County tax rollback reimbursement, and another $5,221 for the homestead exemption reimbursement in Summit County. Expenditure end, May is a 3-pay month, so obviously we have larger than normal personnel costs in this area. In the purchase services area, we have a charge of $29,587 to the College Board, and this is for the various tests that are done at the high school level typically. And capital outlay includes payment of $19,000 to Amazon for 72-inch interactive touchscreen displays for our high schools. This is all part of the, I guess it's kind of a 5-year plan of keeping the some of the technology items up to date. So thus far for the fiscal year, our revenues are about $186,000 less than projected. Our expenditures about $883 greater. So we have an unfavorable variance right now of a little over $1 million 11 months into the fiscal year. As you can see, the revenues are relatively close. Expenditures, a couple different items. We're still awaiting repayment from the state for the dyslexia training. That's about $235,000. So we will be receiving that at some point in time, whether it comes in this fiscal year or not. I don't know. It hasn't as of today. So unless it comes in the next week, that would come in next fiscal year. Other areas, utility costs are up higher this year. Electricity costs are higher than what they had been in previous years. And also a lot of our maintenance costs have gone up as some additional repairs have been needed to keep the buildings in the order that they should be. So next month, obviously, I'll summarize all of the costs for fiscal year 25 as we'll have the final results, going through the end of June. So that is Exhibit D1, if there's any questions.
Okay, Exhibit D1, a resolution to approve financial statements and reports. May I have a motion, please?
Second?
Are there any questions for Mr. Volleson? All right, then please call the roll.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Acom?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Sobolski?
Yes.
Okay, next I'm going to actually skip. I'm going to do D4 first, which is our advances and transfers for the fiscal year. And what you could see here, we have the transfers are first, and transfer from, transfer to kind of shows you where everything's moving to. Couple of things to speak about. We continue to transfer on an annual basis about $40,000 into the athletics fund. So this is all, again, flowing from the general fund. In the PI area, we moved $30,000 into a separate PI account, and that is for replacement of the turf and track when those things become necessary. Some of the other items are, you could see Harmon has moved around some cost to their 8th grade field trip, ski club, and Rotary supplies. And there's a transfer moving in between project years from Title III, which is limited English proficiency, $987, moving from a 24 to a 25 project year. The advances, all advances obviously will be paid back to the general fund at the conclusion of this fiscal year when we open next fiscal year. And these are kind of typical. These are funds that needed a few extra dollars to finish off the year. Food service, we normally transfers $150,000 there. Kind of covers our personnel costs through the summer until we start school again, and then sales will occur. And again, that'll be paid back to the general fund. Athletics is the largest one, $275,000 to kind of cover our costs there, which we have been incurring. All the funds, the federal funds, which begin with a 5, those dollars will be coming in, most of them in July, through the state of Ohio, both in IDEA, which is the largest, and you can see down the line there. So that is exhibit, actually it's exhibit D4.
All right, exhibit D4, a resolution to approve transfers and advances. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Chair seconds. Any comments or questions? Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Okay, I'll move back to D2, which is the 24-25 final appropriation, so that is this fiscal year. And you can see the different changes that we've made there. Things, overall, our total appropriations for the whole district, and this includes all funds, will be $60,139,000. So it's obviously a fairly large organization. Of that, $52,300,000 is general fund. So general fund obviously is by far takes up most of the money that flows through the district. And so there's pluses and minuses, and what this does obviously includes any encumbrances that are outstanding at the end of the year to keep all the funds in balance. Not everything will be expended through these appropriations. Some of those encumbrances, not all of those orders will come through in some way, be canceled out. Some are open orders to kind of cover us for utility costs as we do get billed in July for June costs. So next month, then we'll see the final overall what we expended, throughout for the year. So that is Exhibit D2.
All right, a resolution to approve 2024 to 25 final appropriations. May I have a motion?
Moved.
Second?
Are there any questions? Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Okay, and the final resolution that I have is Exhibit D2, or D3, excuse me, and this would be our permanent appropriations for next school year, for the fiscal year 26. And as you can see, they are relatively the same as this year. Actually, a little over $60 million in total, and again, general fund about $52,300,000, which is the exact same amount that we have as our final appropriations for this year. So what we're looking at overall is, at least initially, our overall expenditures to pretty much match up next year what we expended this year. There'll be, this includes, the general fund is based upon the 5-year forecast and includes the agreement with the AEA, which is later on in the agenda to be passed, along with anticipated changes to the other employee groups, whether they be OPSI and or the non-represented folks. Your federal programs, again, they fall in line with what we typically receive in a year, and a lot of the other programs are really based upon prior expenditures, especially through the activity accounts, your athletic fund, food service, and so on and so forth. So those are the permanent appropriations to start fiscal year '26, which begins next week.
All right, Exhibit D3, a resolution to approve the 2025 to 26 permanent appropriations. Can I have a motion?
Moved.
Are there any questions? Please call the roll.
Mr. Acom?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
That concludes my
All
report.
right, all financial resolutions are approved. Move on to new business. We have Exhibit E1A, which is a resolution to accept gifts and contributions. In the interest of time, I'm not going to read through them tonight like I usually do. May I have a motion for approval, please?
Moved.
Second?
We thank the donors on this list, and if there are no other comments, I'll ask Mr. Delacy to call the roll.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Acom?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski?
Yes.
All right, without objection, I'll take E1B1 through E1B6 together. These are personnel resolutions. We have Exhibit E1B1, a resolution to accept resignations and retirements. E1B2 is a resolution to award summer supplemental contracts. Exhibit E1B3 is a resolution to award supplemental activity contracts to non-district and district personnel. Exhibit E1B4 is a resolution to approve leave of absence requests. Exhibit E1B5 is a resolution to decrease the contract days for the Layton Building Secretary position. And Exhibit E1B6 is a resolution to award teachers a one-year limited contract. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? And Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Acom?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski?
Yes.
Resolutions are approved. Exhibit E1B7 is a resolution to ratify the agreement between the Aurora Board of Education and the Aurora Education Association. May I have a motion for approval?
Moved.
Second.
I have a question. I got the summary. It was sent to us on June 12th, which was a few days after the AEA approved the contract. And I did notice after that, so I didn't say anything at the time, but what is the purpose, or what is the thinking behind giving teachers $500 per semester plus another $500 for perfect attendance? Do you know, I know this has been kind of a weird time for you, but do you know what that conversation revolved around? And also, you know, my thinking in terms of the math would be, we could have 10 substitutes for each teacher and not reach $1,500. Am I right?
Yeah, the substitute teachers are $125 a day. So, right, depending on how the math works out. So what we did is we worked with the union to try to, you know, the definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. We're struggling with substitutes. Part of the reason we're struggling with substitutes is because we have staff out. And so we tried to come up with an incentive. We actually looked at a number of other districts around us. This one actually came from Gearsville-Garfield, which has, I talked to the superintendent. He says it's worked very well for them in terms of the attendance, improvement of attendance and things like that. But there are other districts that we looked at as well. The goal here is to try to provide an incentive to get folks to school a little bit more often, so we're not short on subs. What happens is not only are we paying the sub and paying staff whenever they're absent, but we end up having to pull staff from other positions like our specialists or our tutors positions, our coaches positions, sometimes even having to combine classes and things like that when we're short of subs. And since really it's been the last 3 or 4 years, we have been struggling with our sub coverage. So that was the rationale behind trying something different.
Okay, I feel like it's a little bit discriminatory toward the teachers who truly have medical issues, truly have sick days, and then we'll lose this $1,500 when other teachers will get it. You know, I almost wish, and I know it's a pilot program, so somebody needs to really be looking at this next time around, next year. I guess it's just a one-year pilot, right?
It is,
Or is it a three-year pilot?
I'm going to have to go back and look
Well,
just
in
to
any
double
case-
check, but
in any case,
the idea is it's for this contract, so it would be the 3 years. But just to reemphasize, it's, in order to get that, you would basically, to get the 1,500, as you had mentioned, you would not be at school at all. You would be at school every day, all year. And there are some staff who do that, but that's the idea is it to try to increase attendance. But right now, if you were to go back and look at the number of times that we've had someone with perfect attendance, there have been some, but not many. So we're trying to increase that amount.
Okay. What I'm saying is, it's a pilot program. Maybe if we're gonna continue with it, maybe we need to look at getting doctor's notices or something for the teachers who truly are sick or truly have appointments that are scheduled a year from now, like you do sometimes. Then they're gonna miss out, and it just doesn't seem fair to me. It's hard for me to understand all of this coming from the private sector, you know, that you get paid a bonus for doing what's expected of you, but, I understand the rationale, so, yeah. All right, are there any other comments or questions? Then Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski?
Abstain.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
All right, Exhibit E1B8 is a resolution to employ a specialist for 2025 to 26. May I have a motion? Sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Exhibit E1B9 is a resolution to award supplemental activity contracts to non-district and district personnel. May I have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
I made a point to ask about this. This resolution by itself, this is just an example, this is just one personnel resolution in the month of June, cost over $259,000. And I think these are all positions that are needed. I don't know, I haven't looked through it that carefully, but I think it's something that in light of what we're facing financially, we need to really keep our eye on the dollar amounts on these things that we're passing. That's a lot of money, $259,000. Just for June, if you look through all these supplementals, and I think some of them are probably negotiated, and there's nothing that can be done about it now, but just bring it to your attention so it's on our radar. Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Abstain.
Mr. Cebulski?
Yes.
All right, and I'll take the last three together, if that's okay. Exhibit E1B10 is a resolution to terminate the employment of a support staff member. Exhibit E1B11 is a resolution to approve the salary schedules of support staff not represented by OPSI. And Exhibit E1B12 is a resolution to employ part-time support staff. May I have a motion, please?
Moved.
Second?
Any questions? Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski?
Yes.
All right, personnel resolutions are passed, approved. Next, we have Exhibit E1C, which is a resolution to adopt and implement the Ohio Department of Education and, is it Workforce?
Yes.
Special education model policies and procedures, which we are required to approve. May I have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Any questions? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski?
Yes.
Exhibit E1D is a resolution to approve an out-of-state and overnight field trip for 8th graders this coming school year. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Please call the roll.
Mr. Cebulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes. Exhibit E1E is a resolution to waive the career technical training for students in grades 7 and 8 during the 2025 to 26 school year. May I have a motion, please?
Moved.
Chair seconds. Is this something, I forget, we do this all the time.
Yes,
right?
this is one we do each year.
Why is that? Why do we do that?
It's because our students get their opportunity for career tech training at the high school going forward at Excel Tech from there, and so it has a waiver option. That actually might change. There's a bill out there that would require the removal of the waiver and then addition of hours and things with career training, but right now it's still a waiver is optional.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Wallace, please call the roll.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Acom?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Sobulski?
Exhibit E1F is a resolution to approve changes to the high school handbook. May I have a motion, please?
Moved.
I know there weren't many changes, right? Just one, maybe two.
Yeah.
Any questions? Can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Acom?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Sobulski?
And then Exhibit E1G is a resolution to approve a policy promoting parental involvement, which we are required to do this month. Mr. Roberta, do you have anything you want to add?
Yes, this is just based off of House Bill 8, which we've had some other policies approved associated with this. This is one that we needed to have approved. We're following the recommended from the, the requirements as is listed, but just to give you a quick example, it's just being sure that we're doing our due diligence with communications to parents for things like student health care services, or if they have concerns, there's an appeal process that's within the policy.
Okay, any questions? And please call the roll.
We need a,
Oh, motion, please, sorry. May I have a motion?
Moved.
Chair seconds. Now, please call the
okay.
roll.
Mr. Acom?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Sobulski?
All right, all those resolutions are approved. Now we'll move on to discussion items, starting with board policy manual. Who's up?
I was getting permission. The board policy manual, you received a policy review summary. The policy committee that has gone over this, Jen was on there, and Mrs. Click was on there, as well as Mr. Maglianico, Mr. Volleson, Dr. Milsatich, and myself. We sat down with the Ohio School Board Association, and we went through, literally, if you were to print it out, the policy book is about this big. The summary you're given is just that, a summary. It's 11 pages. Just give you an opportunity to review over that and see some of the things that were pulled out because maybe they were old or something was changed, or things that were added in there. So it breaks down each of those policies from there. I don't know if Bill or Jen, if you had anything else to add to that, other than they did a great job. The person we worked with was very professional, I guess was the other thing I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you. It was very time consuming, but I think that it's going to align to the district's vision, and it will be a great asset to have an updated manual.
So give you time to review that and then have it on the July board meeting. We should be able to have that finalized with the OSBA by that point.
So what are we approving, the whole manual?
Yeah.
All together?
Yeah, all updated and revised.
Okay. The pay to participate fee?
So the athletic council met previous months and is proposing that the pay to participate fee would go up. It hasn't gone up in over 15 years. And we shared with the board a list of local districts, and we have one of the lowest pay-to-play participation fees in the area. But we're proposing that goes up from $100 to $200 at the high school and $50 to $100 at Harmon, with a family cap of $500 for the year. And those can also have 2 payments during each of the athletic seasons. And as a reminder, that, say, $200 at the high school covers you for the entire your child for the entire year. So if you play one sport or play 3 sports, it's still the same amount, $200, as has been in the past. So again, we'll share that with you to be approved based on our recommendation in July.
Okay. So do we want to discuss it now, or do you want to just think about it and, it's going to be on our agenda next?
July.
Everybody knows, right? You all have read that, so we'll just discuss it later. All right, and board communication update.
So this I will defer to Molly and Jen because they were on this committee as well as Mr. Hayes, Mr. Torres, and Dr. Milsatich to talk a little bit about what we did with the board communication committee and where we're at to this point.
All right, so thank you. As the board knows, this is something that we have started in the last several months. We have met twice, one time in April and the second time here at the beginning of this month in June. The purpose of establishing this committee was to assess and enhance the district's communication with the broader Aurora community, particularly the 70% of residents who currently do not have children in our schools. Our goal is to ensure that all residents feel that they are informed, engaged, and of course, proud of Aurora City Schools. We began by kind of taking a look at what are our current communication tools, which include a very wide range of tools that are utilized by various people within the district, including newsletters from the principals, final forms messages, district social media in various capacities, including the Greenhouse Vibes updates, press releases, flyers, community focus segments and shows, and of course, other partnerships throughout the community. So while these tools serve our families, their reach into the broader community is sometimes limited, and we'd like to kind of explore ways in which we can continue that stream of communication and be able to reach as many people as possible through strategic messaging and so forth. We began discussing potential ideas on how to expand outreach. This is going to include distributing regular printed updates or postcards to all Aurora households, and not just when there's a levy on the ballot or when it comes time for the community to come and vote on the schools. Create an option for a digital newsletter that can reach the wider community members on a more consistent basis. Highlight, of course, with that in both the printed mailings, the digital newsletters, both achievements throughout the district and ongoing needs. So we're balancing our messaging so it shows what we continue to do really well in the district and how we can proactively address some of the issues and concerns that the community would need to be addressed on.
One of the other discussion items that we talked about was increasing our visibility at community events, such as Fall Fest, July 4th, as well as through the Aurora Chamber of Commerce and Rotary. This could be done by distributing flyers and showcasing our athletic or extracurricular program rosters, which would help connect residents to the positive efforts that are taking place at our schools. We also explored the utilization of board docs. We currently utilize a version that we subscribe, that is included in our subscription with OSBA, but there is a light version that would cost around just under $3,000 a year.
How much?
It was $2,700, and that would include the ability to post the agenda as well as the minutes. And then there's a pro version, which was $10,600, which is fully integrated. It's a board workflow with live updates during meetings and public access as well. And then the third option would be to restructure our current board webpage to better reflect models of districts like Berea and Shaker Heights. We also, a couple of our administrators met with Impact Group from Hudson to discuss a communications audit, an external one. The full service model would cost around $60,000 per year. So we decided to start with an internal audit first, and then if we wanted to later on as a board decide which direction we would go. But we're kind of using some of the firm's ideas as a starting point in order to give us, a place to begin our internal audit. And as part of that, we started outlining a more intentional messaging evaluation of our district with the transparency regarding, district's needs. This includes continuing the periodic video updates like the rapid fire, also including a facility features and districts and where the district priorities are in upcoming communications, and possibly piloting that new messaging strategies with the Superintendent's Advisory Council. So our next steps for the summer and fall, we'll continue the internal audit. Mainly that will, we can do some over the summer, but it kind of needs to really take off during the fall when the communication is a lot more increased. So we'll be meeting again probably in November or December, depending on if circumstances require a sooner meeting. So we're really looking for feedback tonight on, whether the board feels, maybe this is too soon, but whether the board feels an external audit is necessary. Also about the potential adoption of board docs and at what level, or, your preferences for improving the website's organization and accessibility. And then lastly, the possibility of receiving, digital board packets as opposed to the paper packets that we receive.
Okay, what was the first thing?
The external audit.
I don't want to spend $60,000.
It's expensive.
And I think we were pretty
I
much
think
all in
yeah.
agreement that that was just pretty exorbitant.
And what was the second thing?
The second option would be the board docs, whether or not we wanted to expand the services there or utilize the website in a different way to, to increase the board's communication on there without paying for board docs or without utilizing those services.
Some of the advanced versions allowed like the minutes to be posted, like the minutes, the agenda and everything to kind of just all be like located there within that software.
So you would
So
have,
build the agenda.
you would have,
In Board Docs.
Yes.
publish it
Correct.
To our website, with the Board Docs link, minutes we can
Right.
also
Right.
post.
And it's all
Board
housed
Docs.
there publicly.
so
right.
for example, you would see this entire exhibit on board docs and it would be accessible to the public.
And is that $2,700 a year, or that's
Yes.
included in the more expensive part?
That's the 2,700.
Yeah.
And who would have to do that? Who's responsible for doing that? Do we know?
For updating,
Probably whoever makes our agenda now.
That would be Mary. Who, what?
So then one of the other things we were kind of talking about is could we then replicate that on our own website to be able to offer that to the community?
Yeah, for free.
Um, correct.
some people, yeah. Some districts have utilized PDFs, some have created an entire Google Drive, so you can access, all of the past board packets, and it's not just, the agenda, it's pretty much the whole packet, I think, except maybe the financial information on a lot of them,
Which
some
can
of the detailed financial.
be updated in real time if it's that document that can still be restricted, so it's not that.
So when you say updated in real time, I'm thinking about like tonight, we got here and there were more resolutions, and that just happens because things are always changing in the board office. So not sure it would be real time, but I guess it would just be as good as we could make it, right? Is that what you're saying? And we couldn't post the minutes until the following month because they're not approved.
I think they would be posted as a draft, and they would have like a logo or a backwash saying draft, so people could see, but it wouldn't be official until we adopted them.
Okay, so was there a question? What was the question?
Just bringing to the attention of the board what we've been talking about and some of the questions that have arisen in these
Well,
conversations.
maybe we should try to do it in-house before we pay for it. I mean, I don't know. And I don't know if that's something Stacy would do, like if we're doing it ourselves on the website, I don't know. Yeah. You do it now? You post our agenda? So, did you know that? What are
Yeah.
we saying? But she doesn't post, what's the difference
Well-
between what you want and what she does?
So the agenda that we have is the yellow sheet in front of us, and that's what's posted. A lot of districts, however, post, all of the resolutions and everything in more detail. So that's the main difference.
two more things, or just one more?
The last thing was about, because we talked about the website, the last thing was about, receiving digital packets, instead of the paper ones that are delivered
For us, the board
for
members?
us.
Oh, I definitely want paper. I mean, if we go digital, I'll be at the board office printing mine. Yeah, I have to have it. I make notes on it. I don't know anything about that personally, but I could, if everybody else is for digital, why would you do that? It's just for the five of us or something? Just, you just tell me, it's just the paper thing or what?
Save costs on paper.
Yeah.
I wasn't home when mine was delivered, so it was very wet. I had to try it out.
Mine too.
It's,
Yeah, selection. Digital's nice too, because you're not filing stacks of prior meetings where it's all digital, and then I could just look on the search bar and search what I'm looking for and it'll pop up. Go through
Yeah.
documents,
Yeah.
thinking what I want, and I'll be like, well, I'll get that, and we'll really discuss this. So it's nice to have digital too, but I understand that.
Maybe have both, or maybe it's just a personal,
Or, yeah, personal choice. I think if we update the website, it might be easier to scan and post it on the website. It's a newer, updated website.
Okay. Who would pay, you said about sending postcards, so how would that be paid for?
It would come out of the district, but just kind of, is exploring ways in which we can, provide more regular updates, with the community, about what's going on constantly.
Which I think that's a good idea, but I seem to remember in the past when we've talked about sending postcards for levies, it was really exorbitant. Do you know, Bill, do you remember? I just remember thinking like, oh, we said we can't afford to do it, and it was for levies, but,
Yeah, I mean, it depends again how elaborate they are. If they're multicolor, you're paying more, and then obviously the postage,
the postage, yeah. the minimum
Cost of
And
that.
that's why there's a potential for a digital option as well.
Yeah.
Was the idea that that would be in addition to Motor Schools?
What'd you say, Mike?
yeah.
What did you ask? I didn't.
In addition, I asked if this was in addition to, what we already sent, the newsletter.
Your schools, yeah, your schools. right?
Your schools. Your schools. Your schools.
Another district is called Motor.
Yeah.
Okay, well, do you need more information from us? What's the next thing?
We're just,
We'll wait till the fall when there's more information
Correct.
to send out and decide what to do.
And I guess I wanted to add, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Mrs. Deanna is also on that committee. I apologize for not listing everyone that was there, but she's done a great job participating with all these discussions as well.
Okay. All right. Are there any board items? All right, then I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Moved?
Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Clegg,
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski,
Yes.
Mr. Aka, Mrs. Mahalis.
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider.
yes.
All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.